couple of years ago, Dave Rubin was threatening to move to Texas because there are less taxes there. Texas. Taxless is what he would call it. If he
his idol Ben Shapiro moved there. Remember, he got a cowboy hat and a truck.
There you go.
Moved to Tennessee.
He moved to
it was
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Well, still,
Moved to
I'm
a state
blocked by
with
Dave
C in
Rubin
it.
on Twitter, so I can't follow his escapades anymore.
Well, you were blocked by Dave Rubin?
Yeah, I was blocked by Dave Rubin.
Me too. He eventually, he finally did it. I don't know, a year or two ago. I can't remember. But Dave Rubin, and at the time, and in fact, if somebody finds the video, you can send it to me. I would love to see it because I will figure out a way of inserting it into his most recent clip here. But at the time, I distinctly remember, like, go to Texas, buddy. Let's see how they enjoy you down in Texas. Let's see. You keep saying Texas is so much better. Go to Texas. You will find in some fashion or another your life inhibited by their attitude towards a man who has married a man, and not obviously not. That is a disparagement of Texas, but it's also just calling Dave Rubin on his BS. He likes living in California because it's better. It's better for what he wants. And guess what he did yesterday, apparently? Admitted it.
And I will say one thing, I crap on California a lot for obvious reasons, the taxes, the regulation, the homelessness, the whole thing. California does have the best laws around surrogacy, especially for same-sex couples in the United States, significantly better than places like Texas and Florida. So when I bash on California all the time and I say all the great things about some of those red states, like, it's not like everything is absolutely perfect. And that partly is one of the reasons that we haven't bolted just yet. But anyway, I have no doubt that I'm going to get a ton of messages from you guys.
He's going to face blowback for saying, actually, Democratic-run states make my life as a gay man a little bit easier, but I'm rich, and so I can kind of push aside all those other concerns in order to throw red meat to my audience.
I mean, it goes beyond that. It's basically like he's conceding the point that, in Texas, in some respects, I would be treated like a second-class citizen. I would go there and my husband and I would not have the same rights, literally the rights that we have here in this state. We would not be able to start a family. We would not be, we would be disparaged, and we would be second-class citizens in some fashion in Texas. But, you're going to weigh these things out. I mean, honestly, like, that's...
He spoke too much truth there.
Yeah, really uncharacteristically honest, like just uncharacteristically honest on Dave Rubin's part. I haven't seen that kind of honesty from him since he was doing stand-up back in the early 2000s. But in between,
did you ever see his stand-up back then?
I have seen his stand-up because the comedy special that he was the host of, Hot Gay Comics, has just recently been put on Hulu, and it's it's one of the most baffling comedy specials I've ever seen in my entire life because it's all questions.
Someone reposted those clips, right? Like recently they recirculated, and it was all just like about, what was it, Brandon? It was about...
It's questions. They're just questions. It's about a 10 to 15 minute set of all demographic questions, ranging from who in the crowd is married to who in the crowd is gay to who in the crowd has kids. And they're all setups for like incredibly specific jokes that about lesbians not using shopping carts, or about like Pinkberry being some kind of gay lesbian haven. And, to be honest, it's not funny. I don't like stand-up comedy, so I'm a bad judge of, what isn't funny, but the crowd wasn't feeling it. The crowd was just trying to, have a good time, order some food. He was interrupting women who were ordering, asking if they were bisexual because they like to read. It was a bit hard to watch. And I would say, if you like stand-up, or if you don't like stand-up, give it a watch. It's called Hot Gay Comics on Hulu right now, also on Tubi, on all your, free streaming services. And it's perhaps the most baffling stand-up comedy I've ever seen. Back to the original point, though, I wonder how he struggles with the idea that he would be a second-class citizen in Texas despite all the money and fame he has. It's my kind of question, because he sees people like Joe Rogan, Dave Chappelle, Elon Musk, like, that crowd move to Texas, do stand-up comedy, catch COVID, do more stand-up comedy, the whole shebang. And, he may not want to do stand-up comedy and catch COVID, but I think that, you would imagine that the sort of contradiction between, hey, I'm a rich and famous white guy, and I'd like to move to a place with my, where my theoretical ideological beliefs are being represented in the law of the land, but turns out they don't actually like me, so I'm going to stay where I'm in constant conflict with liberal society, both for content and for it makes my life easier, which is fair enough to him.
But I think you're giving him too much credit. I don't think he's in constant conflict with it. I think he's such a pay to play commentator that really the only thing that's preventing him from doing that to keep up his charade is the fact that his rights are better in California. Like, I don't think he feels like he's doing anything that's morally wrong, because he doesn't really have that level of introspection.
Well, in California, you're not allowed to ask questions. So, you can see liberal states, they don't allow questions. Red states, very inquisitive. And that's his whole bit. So, at the end of the day, he finds himself.
I wonder if he's also worried about living in close proximity. I mean, obviously Texas is a big place. I have no idea where he would go, but and I'm not exactly sure where Glenn Beck's big studio is down there. But I wonder if he was in closer proximity, just like an hour flight away, as opposed to 3 or 4 hours, if there wasn't, or drive away, if he wouldn't be concerned about sort of, because, I think Glenn Beck probably would have an issue with, and certainly his, I think his network to some extent has some hostility towards gay people getting married. But one thing that you reminded me of, Brandon, is that at one point at my son's school, this was a couple of years ago, I've lost sense of time because of COVID, but somebody came up to me. He was a reporter from the New York Times. I didn't know he was. And I don't know if he still is. I mean, he wrote about comedy, and he said, I've watched your stuff about Dave Rubin. It's really funny because Dave Rubin used to email me, mail me all the time to try and get me to write about him. And I was just like, you're not funny. And he said, but it got really sort of pathetic. But that sounded to me like Dave Rubin quite a bit.
I mean, stand-up comedy is hard. Not for me, but I've never done it. So, I imagine for people who do it regularly, it might be hard. I don't know how you do it for so long or getting good at it, but that's just,
That takes real work. I mean, because if you put in at least a certain amount of time, you get to be fairly good. But I think it's his perspective on
it. Just
stuff.
fits into the mosaic of weirdness that is Dave Rubin, and just adds another layer of his attention seeking, I would say.
Yeah,
I have a theory, actually. And Sam, I know you did stand-up comedy, so maybe you can lend credence to it. I think that his routine is a byproduct of the whole, you get up on stage and you go who's from Cleveland? If you're in Cleveland, everyone just they cheer and they clap and they go, woo,
work
woo,
in the
woo.
room. Work in the room.
And, when he started out, he must have gotten no cheers and claps except for with that, light crowd work stuff, the light demographic questions that are about, just random people. And he stuck with that. Eventually his routine became 90% just like crowd work, in a way that has, I would say, never happened before in the history of comedy. So I think the guy should have wrote about him.
Oh, no. It's happened before. There's been a lot of people who are not, who are not good stand-ups. And so that's not particularly unique.
I do love
true.
that idea, though, of just the whole set is just.
Oh, I think Todd Barry actually did an entire tour like that. And there were certainly, I mean, that was not, honestly, that's not that unique to have guys who come up and just do crowd work, road comics in particular. But it was fairly, you wouldn't see it so much with people who were based somewhere because other comedians would shit on them. But if you're on the road and you're just going to see I'm in, whatever it is, I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, and I'm working, and I got some local guy opening up for me. You'll know you never see that guy again. So you do crowd work and you get away with it, and that's it. But other comedians would have disparaged him, I would imagine.
Patton Oswalt did about 10 minutes on the Northern Strip Club in Fargo after somebody's wearing a hat in the front row for it. So,
Yeah. Well, no, you certainly go into, that'll definitely happen. But yeah, you go with it when you're on the road.
I guess what was striking for me is because when you watch like it's 6 episodes of a comedy kind of Def Jam comedy special in a row, there's 6 episodes in the exact same room. It kind of really sticks out to you how much people don't like it. So
it's impressive where people can project that they don't think something's funny just simply by their sheer silence over and over again.
Oh, no, they told them too.
They said
there were a lot of hecklers in the crowd.
Oh, really?
On the special. There were people just like not feeling it.
That's nuts because you don't get that during TV recordings usually. During tapings, they get up and they go, "Look, everybody, you got to just clap and laugh," and they just revolted.
It looks like it was the pilot series for what could have been a more longer term kind of Def Comedy Jam special, but for like the LGBTQ community. Like I said, it's on Hulu now, so you can watch the full kind of edit episodes as they were recorded and aired on a now defunct channel. But they were something. I said I don't watch stand-up comedy normally. I guess that makes me kind of weird on the left, but I'm not a big stand-up comedian special. But I made time for this. Immediately got food poisoning right afterwards. Almost killed me, but I don't think that it was related. I mean, I can't prove it was related. I think it was related in my heart. I have the suspicion, but I can't prove it. And, so, your mileage might vary.
I just got somebody just sent me the Hot Gay Comics graphic. Yeah.
I will say other comedians in the special are all fine. Pretty, good stuff for early 2000s, I guess. I had a chuckle. Anything was fine after,
Yeah, well, he was chum. Throw Rubin out there, and then everyone looks great afterwards.